still have to ignite 33 Raptor engine, and they have to work before we see a liftoff. There's still hurdles on the way here. They can clear them. They have a shot here, but don't be prepared that something might change. It's normal.
Yeah, that's a really good, really good point, Adrian. I would like to underscore that here momentarily. Just really quickly, John buying some stuff from the store saying, "Happy birthday, James." I just wanted to throw that out there. I am cycling through some of these messages and some of the super chats that are coming through because we are 40 minutes.
Okay, this is it. Skratka, danes bodo spustili to čudno zadevo, ki pravijo Spaceship. Iz Boca Chica verjetno, ne? Oziroma neverjetno, kar bojo. Leto zadevo. It's huge. It's really huge. Zdaj jo filejo. Skratka, čez kakšno uro bi to mogli kao poleteti. Tukaj že vidimo v bistvu, kot temu pravijo pač, višek, ki ga spuščajo ven. Seveda je ful ohlajen. Čez 1 uro ne bi se zadeva dokončno nafilala in naredimo testen polet. Predlagam, da poslušamo mojstre, ki so bolj pametni, kaj jest, kaj imajo za povedati.
You know, it was a dreary day. So if we get a nice, beautiful, clear, crisp day like this for launch, I mean, you really can't ask for much more. Speaking of not asking for much more, Russell Snodgrass, buddy, thank you, with a $500 super chat. Russell, that's another one of those names we've seen pop up many times with the...
Ok, skratka, klem, donirajo cash. Teh streamov je full, ne? Tukaj čakamo v bistvu še ostale streame, sem da ga v bistvu zaneblam. Se pravi streame od prvo SpaceX-a, tega čakamo, ta še ni live, teli bodo znali največ povedati. Pa imamo pa še en stream, to je pa tak, v bistvu samo govorijo, se pravi, to je pa tale, tukaj tu čakam v bistvu Mission Control, zaenkrat ni še nič od njih. Predvsem me zanima, kaj bo imel SpaceX zapovedati. Drugač pa itak jasno, imamo pač 2 delčka. Ta zgornji naj bi se na neki točki odpeljal celo do Marsa, pa ta spodnji, ki v bistvu predstavlja nič drugega kot v bistvu samo... Pisa, sem sebe slišal noter, to je prav smešen. Ok, sem se zmanjšal. Skratka, ta spodnji del, ki predstavlja v bistvu tank in fila ta zgornjo, tega spravi v bistvu v vesolje, pa se pa ta pač po vesolju premika, ta se pa nazaj vrne in ga ne bi te ročke, vidiš, ko so jih le pokazal, te ročke ne bi v bistvu jeli tega, ko se vrne nazaj. Streamo je tako full folka to streama. Bom poiskal še kakšne streame, ki jih folk dela sam. Skratka, že tega delajo v bistvu sami, to so neki fanti, ki tam visijo že dolg časa. SpaceX ima svoje kamere, pa imamo tukaj le enega, ki ima v bistvu tudi svojo, sem zgleda, da bo se stream neki v bistvu ne obneša najboljš, kar je še v temi, ne? Medtem, ko tale live v bistvu je pa cel, ne? Idem poslušati, kaj bodo fanti povedali.
I'm looking forward to this. It's insane. I hope we see this in an hour. That's yeah.
Yeah, me too. Rocket Fella, thank you for becoming a launch director member. That's one of the higher levels of member support there.
I do just want to remind everyone and point it out the fact that the window does extend until 9:30 a.m. Central Time, so there is the potential that it may be a little over an hour, but we're hoping 60 minutes from now or so.
Right, so before Russell Snodgrass blew my mind with that absolutely outstanding amount of support, I did want to underscore that while things are progressing rapidly and exactly how we want them to, it is important to note that there are things that could...
Skratka, obstaja ena checklista. Village evacuated. Skratka, celo to bokačiko so mogli v bistvu sprazniti. Road closed, zaprli so cesto seveda. Če se sam kakšen avto pojavi, enostavno prekličejo izstrelitev. Nazadnje je bila ena ladja, ki je prišla preblizu, ali pa celo enkrat je bil en avionček, ki se je neki okrog smukal in so pač jasno priklicali izstrelitev. Potem imam chopstick to launch position. Chopstick so v bistvu te stvari klele, vidiš? Ne? Tole, ko v bistvu prime tega boosterčka. 5 clear, seveda, da ni folka na pedu. Go, no, go, pull. To pač itak čakamo, da vidimo, če bo šlo ali pa ne bo šlo. Booster propellant load start. To se je že zgodilo, se pravi, že filejo zadevo. Ne? Ship locks load start. Have no idea, kaj bi to bilo. Pomaš ship channel 4 load start. Aha, ok, load start, se pravi, filejo z temi zadevami, se pravi, z fuelom. Ne? Pomalo pa Raptor chill. Raptor so v bistvu motori, ki poganjajo boosterja, kar velikih je spodaj. Potem je pa vent down sequence, injection, sequence start in excitement guaranteed. To berem iz enega streama, moram ga nekako not pripeljati. Te bom prav poiskati, če ga najdem. Medtem pa lahko poslušamo, kaj te li bolj pametni od mene, kaj znajo povedati. Morda, ne?
I think it's excitement guaranteed, right?
Yep, excitement is indeed guaranteed.
I would need to interrupt here for a quick second. There's something that we just need to point out. We are aware of what's going on in chat, and Crispy really didn't want to do it, but with over 170,000 people on the stream and chat being unreadable for all due to how fast it was moving, including some people not speaking English, we did have to make it members only just for the key part of this countdown. We promise it will be back to normal afterwards.
Holy cow. Beth Sanders with a $300 super chat. Thank you so much, Beth. Beth says, thank you guys for covering this moment in space history. Beth, thank you for putting your confidence and faith into what we do. Thank you for watching, and thank you so much for that extremely generous amount of support. Rest assured, like I just told Russell, we will take that money, plow it back into the NSF fields, and grow y'all some amazing frickin' content. I hope you have been seeing the work that has gone into this stream. Go ahead.
I have to interrupt. That's the ship engine chill vent.
Excellent.
We have the first signs of engine chills. So they are now preparing some of the Raptors. It's not the full engine chill, but it's like they are getting ready. They're preparing the engines. We are 1 hour and 36 seconds. We are 1 hour away from Starship launching. Maybe.
Hopefully, we think so. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, stand on one leg and touch your nose while you rub your stomach. I don't know. You get it. Hopefully. But Beth, thank you, Beth, so much. Here's a deal. There's a balance that has to be struck here because we're commentating. We're trying to tell you guys what's going on. We're trying to make sure everybody knows what's happening. We're trying to keep the hype train rolling here. At the same time, Beth, that is a huge amount of support. So thank you. I want to underscore the fact that we appreciate that. Also, Russell, thank you. Thank you to everybody, whether it's $1, $5, whether you're buying a patch from the store, whatever it is, thank you so much. But at the same time as I want to show sincere appreciation for this amount of support, I know you don't want me to hear me just talk about that this entire time. So let's move on and start talking again about what we expect to see next. Adrian, what is next up in the flow here?
Oh, let me get that timeline. Well, that is the timeline here. I love this timeline, by the way. The next thing that will happen is that the engines, the 33 Raptor engines below the Super Heavy booster, will start to chill down in preparation for the ignition sequence. That's basically one of the final steps where they make sure the engines are very well conditioned, prepared for their cryogenic fluids, going through them, and once that is happening, they can get ready for ignition.
We're under an hour. We are under an hour away. Oh, and we have a tweet from Elon.
Oh.
We might not be set up to show it yet. I'm sorry, production team. Elon is just confirming that propellant load for Starship is underway. Liftoff in T-minus 1 hour. So that is the status. We are under an hour.
That was at 7:18 a.m. Central Time.
No, zdaj si slišal, ne? Elon Musk je tweetnul, skratka še malo pa grejo stvari zares. Očitno se je prvi del nafilal. Aha, tukaj vidiš, le.
Julian is asking.
Veš, kaj spodaj lepo v bistvu že odvaja više goriva. Upam, da ne ventajo, kar na neki točki, ko kaj ni v redu, spustijo to ven, ampak dajmo si še kaj bodo fantje povedali.
To space. They usually condition these engines while they are still on the ground. That makes they basically have two pipes at the side of the ship where they vent out the at the booster you can vent it out at the bottom and you can vent it out to ground pipes, what they are doing. On the ship you need to vent it out at the side because otherwise you would have a buildup of gas in the interstage. So that's why they make sure that they get that out. That's what we just saw.
Cool deal.
Jack, do you hear the excitement in Adrian's voice?
I do, and I mean, I've heard Adrian excited many times, but I've never heard him quite this excited, and it's rightfully so.
I'm standing here behind him, and he's been on commentary for so long, and he had to stand up to get some of his energy out so he could see the rocket. He was just looking at the laptop, right? And then he had to stand up, and he's dancing around actually right now. Adrian, you good? I think he's good.
I'm good in the most positive way. It's
in the most positive way.
It's nerve-wracking. It's insane to watch, and I'm really looking forward to this. And yes, at some point you don't want to sit anymore because when I sit on this desk here, I cannot see Starbase. So at some point I just wanted to stand up so I can constantly, while commentating, look at Starbase.
Yeah,
it's a good problem to have.
It's quite hard to sit still. I mean, I think we're all entering sort of pace mode, where we just kind of walk back and forth and sort of anticipate the launch of this massive machine. I mean, holy cow! Really quickly, just Abriana with a store message that says, "For my boyfriend Ryan, who sets midnight alarms just to watch rockets fly. Enjoy the launch." Oh, that's sweet. Okay. I kind of need to go set up a camera and get that working as we are getting very close to launch here. So I think I'm going to leave you guys in the capable hands of
Would you like me to speak over?
Yeah, Sawyer, it's all you, buddy. There's so many super chats. There's so many messages. I don't even. Good luck. Good luck keeping up with it all. To everybody watching right now from around the world, thank you so much for tuning in to NSF's coverage of the very first Starship test flight. Just thank you so much for putting your faith in us to deliver you the news. We're doing the very best we can, and I hope and I suspect that shows. So I'm going to jump off, get my camera rig set up, and perhaps I'll jump back on as I get that set up and can step away from it. But I need to get prepared for launch because we're just about 55 minutes away. And Chris Bergen said it best in chat, my brain can't deal with this. Yeah, I am suspending disbelief, and I'm going to just accept that this is real and get my camera set up. So, holy cow, I'll see y'all in a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jack. And again, thank you everyone who's already been giving us your support so far. We now are planning, it appears, like a T0 of 8:18 a.m. Central Time per the latest tweet from Elon Musk. So, Adrian, where are we at, by the way, in the fueling process? So what propellants are being loaded up right now?
Basically everything. They are loading on both four tanks propellants, as we can see right now. We can see frost rings on everything. So yeah, everything looks good so far. Looks progressing. They're a bit more ahead in the booster, of course, because that started earlier. But the ship's tanks are smaller, so they will catch up. And right now, the tank farm is exactly what it's supposed to do, which is providing as much cryogenic fluids as they can.
Exactly, and it is interesting to point out there. So what you're seeing there with that looks like smoke coming off of it, that is just the super chilled outside of the vehicle as those super cooled propellants are loaded inside the ship and inside the booster. And it's also interesting that you can see the distinct lines of the individual tanks. So you can tell which one is liquid methane and which one is oxygen. What is the breakdown of that, by the way? Which tank is which? Go ahead, Adrian.
The smaller tanks are the methane tanks. The bigger ones are the liquid oxygen tanks. That's the general rule. And yeah, I'm always lost when oh, there's ice breaking from the top tank a bit. There was a bit of ice just falling down while they are tanking this.
And again, that is completely normal. The
Yeah,
ice is expected to fall off. And a reminder for those who are taking a look on both, the liquid oxygen tank is on the bottom and the liquid methane tank is on top, and that is both for the booster and for ship 24 as well. Continuing to just go through all of your support here, it's really appreciated. We have some immense support. Eric Ramey here with a $100 tip. Thank you very much for that. So excited for this launch. Really happy how far NSFs have come. We very much appreciate that and the support and the love from everyone out there who's watching and helping here. We've got Stephen J with the $300 super chat. No message there, just the kind support. Stephen J, thank you very much. It's from people like you that we can actually continue to do what we do and provide this to everyone, as well as from Fatimore with a $100 saying awesome quality.
Mogoče tudi zanimivo, kako se obrača v bistvu cela zadeva. Vse so že v bistvu spravili na internet in te televizije in kabelske operaterje in to kar malo se mi zdi, ni več o to, ne. Folk daje direktno izvajalcu prenosa cache, tako da v bistvu odpadejo vsi s svojimi provizijami, ker v bistvu internet v okviru tega lahko naredi praktično kar želiš in ves cache se seli na internet. Se fantje so pridni, iskreno, ne. Postavljajo so full kamer, imajo komentatorje, kamere so top shit, a ne. Tako da ja, res delajo dober del. Ampak zdaj moram poiskati še one ostale, imam jih tukaj v bistvu odprte, ampak ne najdem jih več na internetu. Kar dost folk je postavili nekih kamerc, pa prenaša zadevo v živo. Iskreno, mislim, da je čist premalo fokusa še iz naše strani, tako, ne vem, je to slovenska ali evropska, kakorkoli, ampak to, kar klej počnejo, je tako čist hudo. Ne vem, od kje prihaja zdaj ves ta oblak, ampak važno je, da iz teh boosterjev zadevo očitno odvajajo in jo hladijo in očitno filajo že tudi v bistvu prvi del, ne, ker ship log slot started, drugi tudi started, skratka čez 50 minut mislim, da to izstreliti. Jaz sem medtem še malo poslušal, kateri govorijo, pa pogledali bomo še druge streame. Zaenkrat vidim ta od SpaceX-a še ni zalaufal, tale Mission Control od njih tudi zaenkrat ni še nič, ne. Se mi zdi, čakaj, ne, ni še nič. Teri so pa kar pridni. 99,000 folka gleda samo njih. Me zanima, koliko jih bo gledal pol, ko bo še Musk zalaufal svoje ali tale SpaceX. Ampak ja, dajmo poslušati, kaj ima še kaj zapovedati, ne.
Thank you everyone for all the support. And I do want to point out that we do have someone else that is joining us here to help out with some of these questions and all the support and launch coverage, and that is Ian Atkinson. Ian, how are you?
Hey guys, anything interesting happening today?
I don't know if there's anything happening.
I don't know. All right, I'll see you guys later then. This sounds pretty boring.
Very funny.
Kid.
It is good to have you here, and we are getting so many questions and support here from everyone. We really appreciate it. feels like we've got some more questions that we can take care of here. And Ian, I'm going to send one over to you. And that is going to be, is the rocket standing on top of the orbital launch mount, or is it encapsulated inside? And is there a risk of the booster colliding with the inner ring or walls? And that's from Decade.
Yeah, so it is kind of inside the orbital launch mount, only partially. So the engine section, or the aft skirt of Starship of Super Heavy, is within the orbital launch mount. Now, any risk of collision at liftoff really would only be if it went laterally, if it somehow went left to right, forward to backwards. There will be a good bit of clearance between the inner edge of the orbital mount and the sides of the booster itself. And that will only be any risk of collision for like a half second at most. There's pretty much no risk of collision. So it is resting on 20 quick disconnect umbilicals, 20 hold down points that will rapidly disconnect and retract into the mount right at liftoff. So there is.
Ian, I'm going to take over from there for you a quick sec. It sounded a bit robotic. Apologies for that. But we'll give you a second to get that taken a look at. In the meantime, there you can see ship 24. As we progress, again, 8:18 a.m. Central Time is what we're looking at. We should be seeing, it looks like a vent there on the ship. We can see that to the right, just underneath the chopstick arms. And a reminder, those chopstick arms are currently open, which is in the position it is expected to be for launch. We are progressing now.
Ok, omenil je številko 24, seveda teh zgornjih delov in spodnjih delov so naredili kar velika, ne. Sem pa najdel še enega mojstra, lega, ta tudi v bistvu daje v živo, pa še jih je, ne. Skratka, kar neki kamer samoiniciativno postavljeni, komentirajo, spremljajo, sledijo. Sicer ta malo, 20 minus, ne, to je nekaj narobe. Mora poiskati enega, ki ima 50 minus. Gledam čas do izstrelitve, ne. Idemo nazaj na te mojstre. Medtem pa jaz probam ugotoviti, zakaj je ta čisto v bistvu izven tajminga. Ne poslušaj, kaj boš še kaj povedal, ne.
All of the fuel tanks in both the ship and the booster, so there is nothing to worry about when you see those. Just wanted to point that out.
Hey, Sawyer.
Hi, Das. How's it going?
Oh, I am in and out. I am all over the place. We are firing on more cylinders than we actually have right now. But just checking in from the roof of the Margaritaville Resort, South Padre Island over here, it continues to be a beautiful day. There are people down on the beach. Again, still not a cloud in the sky. The sun is coming up. I actually forgot my sunglasses in the truck, so we're just going to have to deal with that. But I don't think that we could have asked for a nicer day to watch this.
Exactly. Thank you for chiming in with that. Yeah, the weather looks absolutely gorgeous. Perfectly clear skies, and like we mentioned before, it's unlike SN11 or SN15, who those remember where it was quite foggy, especially SN11. We've got gorgeously clear skies, and we can see everything beautifully happening to the booster and the ship right now. And a reminder... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're on top of the hotel right now, which we have a camera up there, which you can see in our multi-view, which you can access for all of our members who are Red Team and above.
Sawyer says we have a camera up here. Sawyer.
Do we?
We bought out the camera store. We have so many cameras up here. It took us like 15 trips up to carry all the cameras we have. We've got a fiber line up here. We've got wireless infrastructure up here. We're controlling all of the different sites from our command post here on the, well, I say on the roof of the hotel. It really relays through the hotel. And all the remote folks, the production team, are really knocking it out of the park.
Ok, kul to govorijo, ampak SpaceX je tukaj, evo. Končno, SpaceX je zbudil. Čakamo, da vidimo, kaj bodo dejansko povedali fantje iz ta prave produkcije. Ne, vsi so to pravi, vsi so vsi super, ampak se veš, ne. Najboljši poslušati tistega, ki to dejansko pelje. Iščem način, kako pripeljati SpaceX noter. Evo ga, tukaj je. Tako da zdaj gledamo, source ena je SpaceX, pa imamo pa še drug source, to so pa telefantje klelane. Skratka, čas teče, 40 minut, čakamo na polet te zadevšnje, ki je visoka cirka 120 metrov, se pravi 2 slovenska nebotičnika, ljubljanska nebotičnika. Predstavljaj si to vršč v luft. Ne. Ta spodnji del, tak je v bistvu bolj srebrn, deluje kot en rezervoar. Ta zgornji del je pa taka dejansko bi ne bila neka potujoča ladja. Ideja je, da se tako in ena in druga lahko v bistvu vračata in sta v bistvu reusable, ne, skratka ne odvrže ničesar v vodo. Običajno pade pač v vodo, kjer pol v bistvu pobirajo in poskušajo to reusati. Aha, tukaj imamo že v bistvu spisek stvari, ki so jih naredili. Ne pogledati, kaj točno to je. Ali pa dajmo jih kar poslušati, kaj tako so bolj pametni.
Normal, that is the pressures evening out as we counting. Unbelievable there.
At this point, this feels kind of... So we are now in the range where this is basically our normal Falcon 9 streams. We are now in the range where we usually would go live for Falcon 9. It's...
Yeah, except there is no T-minus 20-minute vent. We've already had quite a big vent here so far with all the ships and the boosters. So, there we go. Continuing along here, I do want to, again, thank some of the people with some tremendous support here. Justin Davenport, sounds familiar, with a $150 tip. Here's a little addition to Jack's Bacon Fund, Go Starship. I'm sure Jack appreciates that. Cameron with the 160 Australian dollars. Frank Green, drink bottles are hard to drink from. Thank you very much for the message and for all of the support there as well. So many of you being so kind and so generous. It's really appreciated. New Black with a €200 tip, which is another way you can support us, tips.nasaspaceflight.com. Amazing stream, guys. 20 TVs in our office tuned in. Special shout out to Adrian as your SME. We love the detailed info. New Black, thank you. And Adrian, we love having your commentary as well, especially as we get closer to your first ever launch. And it just so happens to be the most powerful rocket in the world. Stock Garden with more support, another $100 super chat. Let's go. Artificial reef incoming, which, yes, that's actually a very good point that we should probably address there. So, Adrian, what is going to happen with...
Tole pa zdaj slika SpaceX-a. Dajmo to poslušati.
A boost back burn. What are we expecting to have off the coast?
Zdaj gre za res. To je zdaj v bistvu feed SpaceX-a. Evo le, tukaj vidiš, ko se premikajo motorčki. To so testi, statični testi. To je bilo tudi noro zavideti, kjer izprobajo dejansko vse. Veliko senzorjev, veliko povratnih informacij, veliko razstreljenih raket. Boljše, če sebe ne poslušam, sem se izklopil. Skratka, čist, nora tehnologija. Prvi in edini, ki vrača rakete. In evo, gledamo.
As it awaits its first ever integrated flight test from Starbase, Texas, in just a little over from 40 minutes from now. Today, we're hoping to see our Super Heavy booster and Starship spacecraft, collectively referred to as Starship, lift off together for the first time. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Kate Tice, Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California.
And I'm Shiva Bharadwaj, a Space Operations Engineer here at SpaceX. Now, as many of you know, Starship is SpaceX's latest and largest vehicle developed to date. It represents a fully reusable transportation system designed to carry both crew and cargo to Earth orbit, the Moon, Mars, and beyond.
If you've been following the development of Starship over the last couple of years, you know we've been doing a lot of testing leading up to this big one. Once fully developed, it will be the world's most powerful launch vehicle, with twice the thrust of Saturn V rocket and the ability to carry up to 150 metric tons to orbit. For reference, a 1-liter bottle of water is 1 kilogram, so 150 metric tons is basically 150,000 1-liter bottles of water, or, as I like to think of it, one rather lonely blue whale.
Now, today's test will be the first of many as we work towards transitioning Starship from a developmental to an operational program. Our primary objective today is to gather as much data as we can around the fully integrated vehicles. That means the booster and the Starship and the ground systems. While we have flown Starship in the past, this will be the first attempt of Super Heavy and the first opportunity to validate how the two vehicles operate together.
Any data that we get helps improve the future builds of Starship will be considered a success for the purposes of today's test. Every milestone beyond that is icing on the cake. The further we fly, the more data we can collect. If all goes well, today's flight test could last as long as 90 minutes from liftoff to an expected hard ocean landing for Starship. Whether we end the test with a hard landing or a rapid unscheduled disassembly, or some combination of both, excitement is pretty much guaranteed.
Now, if it does all go well, Super Heavy will fire up its 33 Raptor engines, and it'll lift off from the launch pad down in South Texas. About 3 minutes into the flight, we're going to hope to see the Super Heavy separate from the Starship spacecraft. It'll then perform a flip maneuver. So there's that. You can see that on your screen. And then it'll boost back in order to make a hard landing in the Gulf of Mexico.
And while that's happening, we hope to see Starship's 6-second stage engines ignite and watch as Starship coasts for about an hour at altitudes ranging between 150 and 250 kilometers before re-entering Earth's atmosphere and make its own hard landing in the Pacific Ocean about 250-ish kilometers offshore.
Now, we are getting great camera views right now, but that's because we are on the launch pad, so we've got umbilicals and connections straight to the vehicle. But we aren't expecting to get very many good views once we get past booster separation.
Yeah, we do promise, though, for any views that we do get, we will share them in real time. We are watching live with you all, so we're excited to see those views ourselves as well.
Now, in a little bit, we are going to take a closer look at the vehicle and the launch pad. But first, today is a super exciting day. Everyone on the teams across Starship have been preparing, doing a number of tests and dress rehearsals for today's launch attempt.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In fact, we saw a nice little recap of those tests in the intro video to today's webcast. For those of you that are following along, you know that many of those tests ended in those rapid unscheduled disassemblies, or RUDs as we like to call them. And it's been a long road to today. Just in 2022 alone, we had 9 static fires. We've had a couple of wet dress rehearsals. And of course, the launch control team has done numerous simulations as well.
So major shout out to the teams that have been preparing for today's full up integrated test. In fact, we've got a shot of Star Command at the South Texas launch control team. Look at all the people ready for today's launch attempt.
Yeah, that right there is our South Texas Launch Control Center. That is basically ground zero for everything that is happening today, in addition to a couple other control rooms that we have operating as well with operators on console, including the Mission Control Center here behind us here in Hawthorne, California. But with that being said, our very own Zachary Lupin is one of our SpaceX employees at our watch event in South Padre Island. Hey, Zach, how are things going on the ground?
It is a great day for a test launch today, Kate. Hello, everyone. My name is Zachary Lupin, and I'm an avionics reliability engineer here at SpaceX, and I'm at the Cameron County Amphitheater, where a growing number of SpaceX employees are gathering to watch what we hope is the first liftoff of a fully integrated Starship. Now, the Starship team has worked incredibly hard for today's launch test. Over the past weekend, teams held a launch readiness review, which included a comprehensive review of all of our vehicle systems, looking at avionics, GNC, communications, software, structures, as well as our Raptor engines and propulsion in general. Now, we are only about 5 miles away from the launch pad, so it's a pretty good view for today. And as we get into as we start to approach T-0, everyone here is clearly very excited for the events that are happening today. So as we get closer to T-0, I'm going to throw it back to Hawthorne to talk more about a rocket.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Zach. And we've actually got a little bit of a crowd forming behind us, too. Now, we've got a shot of Starship on the screen. The entire Starship structure you see is made of stainless steel, and when that's fully stacked, it stands about 120 meters tall and about 9 meters around. To help you give a sense of just how big that is, we've captured a video of some of our teams doing final integration prep work in advance of today's test flight.
Just like Falcon 9, Starship has 2 stages, which we will talk a little bit more about in a minute. But in addition to those 2 stages, Starship actually has a 3rd stage called Stage 0. It consists of all the launch pad infrastructure built around the rocket. You can see a great view of it there on your screen. It's truly an engineering feat in its own right.
And I feel like it's something we don't talk about very often. There's a lot of infrastructure that goes into fueling and preparing the launch vehicle before a large test like this, really any launch. Now, let's talk about Super Heavy. The name says it all. It's super, it's heavy, it's super heavy. It goes by some other names, the first stage or the booster, but whatever you call it, the Super Heavy will be the vehicle responsible for powering Starship against that mighty gravitational pull we've got here on Earth. And when it's fully operational, it's going to get Starship to orbit.
The booster alone stands about 70 meters tall and is about the same height as a fully integrated Falcon 9, but with a diameter roughly 2.5 times that of Falcon 9 and with 33 much larger engines.
Yeah, and having those engines, and oh my gosh, I love this shot. We can see looking up into the launch mount at the 33 engines on the booster. Those are each of the Raptor engines that's going to power today's launch attempt.
Yeah, this is an incredible view. One of my favorite views that we're going to get today. We don't have this kind of view on our Falcon 9 launches, so this is so exciting to see. You can even make out the paint markers indicating which engine is which. Like we said, there are 33 of them. So there's a lot of fire that's going to be coming out from those engines in just over 31 minutes from now. As we mentioned before, there are 33 of them on the Super Heavy, the booster, and we don't see it right now, but the cluster in the center are the ones that are actually going to gimbal and help steer the booster back down for its water landing in the Gulf.
Yeah, and they're a little bit different, Kate, than our Falcon engines. So on Falcon, we use a gas generator cycle. Here's a fantastic shot, actually, at the inner stage, so we can see the 6 engines that are on the ship side, 3 gimbaling in the middle, and then the vacuum engines, you can see 2 of them, and the other ones on the other side of the cluster in the middle here. So Raptor's a little bit different. It uses something called stage combustion, which means we basically pre-burn both the fuel side and the aux side, and then get those up to the right temperatures and pressures, and then mix them in the combustion chamber. It allows us to get higher thrust and higher efficiency on these engines than on Falcon 9. Now, Super Heavy also has 4 grid fins to assist with orienting itself during the return back to Earth, as today is the fully integrated flight test, and the first one, we're focusing on safely testing just the fundamental systems and operations on the vehicle. So what that means is we won't be attempting to land on land today. Instead, Super Heavy is going to be making that hard water landing in the Gulf.
Starship, or the spacecraft, is the 2nd stage and makes up the top portion of the vehicle. It's designed for carrying passengers and cargo between destinations on Earth, Earth orbit, and planetary destinations. It stands 50 meters tall, a little taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's comprised of 6 Raptors. We saw those just moments ago. 3 of them are optimized for sea level, and the other 3 are vacuum engines. And they're optimized to operate in the vacuum of space. They provide a maximum of 258,000 tons of thrust in vacuum. The spacecraft is also outfitted with 4 flaps to help aerodynamically control the vehicle's attitude during atmospheric flight and enable precise landing at the intended location. You can see a view of those flaps there.
Now you can see the entire stack is vertical, and that's because Starship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing, as opposed to taking off and landing like an airplane. And that's really important because we don't have runways on the Moon and Mars. Fortunately, gravity at both of those destinations is not nearly as high as it is here on Earth. On Mars, it's about a third of what Earth's gravity is. And on the Moon, the gravity is just a sixth of what it is here. So Starship can take off in both of those cases without needing the Super Heavy booster like we need here on Earth. Now, for today's test, Starship does not have its landing legs attached. And that's because we aren't going to be attempting to return to the launch site or land on land. It's going to be doing another hard water landing at the end of today's test.
We can't wait. Starship is wrapped in a heat shield, which is composed of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles designed to insulate the vehicle during atmospheric entry, where temperatures can be as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit. The hex-shaped tiles, like these ones that we have here, roughly make up about 2/3 of the vehicle. There's a couple of different geometries. The one that I have is for the circular portions of the vehicle, so it has this curvature to it. And the one that Shiva has.
Yeah, this kind is a hexagonal shape, and there's several thousand of these all across the body of the vehicle. And it's worth saying we need these because when a spacecraft re-enters from orbital velocity, it's going faster than the speed of sound and causes a lot of heat to build up that has to get dissipated by these heat shield tiles.
Yeah, one thing that's really cool about these is they're super lightweight. Even just holding them, we're able to even just like hear how hollow they are because of the construction. But they do a great job of dispersing that heat during that atmospheric reentry. We actually produce these in-house at what we like to call the SpaceX bakeries. And they're located in Texas and Florida. So it's something that we designed and build in-house. And like we said, there's thousands of them. You can kind of see them on the exterior of the vehicle. So at this point in time, we are at T-minus 27 minutes and 18 seconds. So let's head on over to John Innsbrucker for an update on the countdown. Hey, John.
Thanks, Kate, and good morning. I'm John Innsbrucker, Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. We're currently loading propellant from the ground system into both the first and second stages. Now, both vehicles use the same two propellants. Our fuel is liquid methane at a temperature of just over 100 kelvins, or about minus 272 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this is a different fuel from Falcon 9, where we use RP1 kerosene. And our oxidizer is liquid oxygen, the same as Falcon 9. But because there's no oxygen in space to support combustion, we have to bring our own. Now, a little bit of a recap. We did the go, no go poll at T-minus 1 hour and 45 minutes. And once the team gave their goes, we polled about 20 folks. We started loading propellants onto the booster at T-minus 1 hour and 39 minutes. And at T-minus 1 hour and 22 minutes, we began propellant loading of the ship, the second stage on Starship. Now, LOX loading of the second stage main tank is almost complete right now, but we'll actually stretch it out and wrap it up and finish at T-minus 5 minutes. And then at T-minus 3 minutes, as the booster finishes loading, the vehicle will be fully loaded with just over 10 million pounds propellant. Now, currently in the countdown, we've just passed the T-minus 26 minute mark. The good news is weather's looking good. You can see the blue skies there on the camera views from the drone. The only thing we're watching is winds. They are within limits at ground level. We expect they may pick up a little bit as we get farther into the window should we need to go that far. But the good news right now is that the weather is looking good. Range also is looking pretty good. We've moved almost all the boats out of the keep-out zone overnight. We are working one, but we're still underway. And right now, as a reminder, if for any reason we do not make our test flight today, we have backup launch windows. This could be either 24 or 48 hours after today, and it'll depend on how far we get into the countdown. But coming up on 25 minutes to go, everything is looking good.
Pa ne, no, se bo šlo. Ajde, 25 minut.
To make life multiplanetary, we need a fully reusable vehicle that's capable of carrying a huge amount of cargo and a lot of people to orbit and have a pretty quick turnaround. The idea is to effectively reuse launch vehicles just like airplanes. The crowd is getting excited here in Hawthorne behind Mission Control, as you can hear.
Folka je za tem projektom? Koliko folka?
New airplane to be constructed every time you wanted to fly. You'd rarely go anywhere, and it would probably be completely unaffordable for most of us. In order for us to get to Mars and back with lots of people multiple times, reusability is a must.
Now, in the near term and a bit closer to home here on Earth, Starship will be critical to other programs as well. Once it's operational, Starship will deliver the full-size and upgraded version of our Starlink satellites. And that's super exciting because our next-generation satellites represent a step forward in Starlink's capabilities and will provide more bandwidth and increased reliability to connect millions of people around the world with high-speed internet.
And of course, Starship will fly a number of human spaceflight missions in the lead up to our first missions to Mars. Entrepreneur and pilot Jared Isaacman will command the first human spaceflight on Starship as part of the Polaris program. Jared served as a commander for Inspiration 4, the first all-civilian mission to orbit. Inspiration 4 launched aboard our Dragon spacecraft and Falcon 9 in September 2021, raising over $240 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. The first human spaceflight on Starship will launch as part of the Polaris program, and you can learn more about that series of missions at polarisprogram.com.
Now, our first lunar mission around the moon aboard Starship will be led by Japanese entrepreneur Yusaku Maezawa, also known as MZ. MZ flew to space for the first time in December 2021, and he purchased all of the seats aboard Starship's first lunar mission in order to give artists and creators from all over the world the opportunity to go. And the hope is that what they will create in space will further inspire all of us.
Ok, to je zdaj neki mal bullshit, ampak zares gre. Lej, tukaj imaš še te mojstre, ki malo kažejo. Dajmo to pogledati.
Is underway. Adrian, what are the header tanks on Ship 24?
Yeah, the header tanks will, down the line, be used for de-landing burns, because they will prevent, for example, splashing around in the tanks. Because if you have, imagine if you all put all your propellant only in one tank, then you will have a situation that during the flip burn maneuver, you will have propellants flying around in the ship, which means they're not there where you need them to ignite the engines or keep them fed with propellants.
Skratka, danes ne bodo pristali, verjetno se pade v vodo dobesedno, ker tu tukaj vidiš te fliperse in ne bodo pristali. Skratka, padec v vode predviden. Aha, imamo na informacije.
The Artemis program, along with SpaceX's ongoing mission to make life multiplanetary.
SpaceX will conduct an uncrewed demonstration mission to the moon prior to the Artemis 3 mission, which will mark humanity's first return.
No, to gre že malo za konkurenco. Kdo bo podpisal boljšo pogodbo z NASA, pa kdo zna več pokazati. Artemis je zagotovo kar huda konkurenca, ampak ja, Muskovi, SpaceX-ovci so dali kar vetra te tehnologiji in ceni in vsem. Start Hooper, haha, ta je prvi, ki je poletel. Dajmo videti, kaj bodo povedali.
15 meters tall, the Starhopper had a single engine and was test flown to perform landing and low-level altitude maneuver. This was followed by a second hop, the one that we've got on our screen, that rose to 150 meters in altitude. We took a little jaunt away from the launch pad and ended up landing about 100 meters or so.
Ja, to je bilo res zanimivo. V bistvu sem se pokazal, da lahko pristanejo, vzletajo in to je dejansko osnova tega, kar bomo danes videli. Skratka, ta je prvi, sledijo seveda te špičke, ampak to, kar bomo danes videli, je dejansko rezultat tega poskusa. Aha, evo ga.
Prototypes. The Starship program saw a huge breakthrough during a test flight of the vehicle known as serial number 8, or SN8. SN8 demonstrated a first-of-its-kind controlled aerodynamic descent and landing flip maneuver. Yes, I'm talking about the belly flop. This 12.5-kilometer hop test took place December 2020 and saw the SN8 prototype ascend to an altitude of 12.5 kilometers and conduct a belly flop maneuver. While it didn't stick the landing, the test was a major milestone in the development of Starship.
Ok, škoda, ker ne pokaže druga dva, ki sta se dejansko razbila in razpočila, ampak ja, na štanca so jih res veliko.
February of 2021, we had a nominal ascent, engine cutoff, reorientation, and controlled descent were stable. However, we unfortunately had a dramatic ending to the end of that flight when we had a...
Aha, je kljub vsemu povedal, ampak vsem, bravo.
That resulted in one of those rapid unscheduled disassemblies. But what was really, really exciting about both serial numbers 8 and 9 is how quickly we were able to achieve just our primary objectives in those two high-altitude test flights. In addition to getting lots of great data, Starship successfully demonstrated control of the vehicle and subsonic re-entry capability.
To je eden izmed dveh pacov. Ampak ja, ko je Musk to razlagal fantom, so se mu iz nase smejali, bivši astronauti so se mu smejali in s dvemi razsutimi zadevami leki smo danes.
Performed a number of maneuvers and safely returned to the launch site. This was the first Starship prototype to fly, control its descent, safely land, and to be recovered in one piece.
Now, having achieved that success in our suborbital campaign, one of the next big challenges for upper stage reusability is to survive the high heating hypersonic phase of entry. Combined with the ability to refill our Starship's tank with fuel and oxygen while on orbit is what will enable a fully reusable...
Sem pazi to, če se vrnemo nazaj, kaj so počeli pri Space Shuttle, kaj počnemo zdaj? Se v bistvu način vstopa v atmosfero s ploščicami je zelo podobno v njih. Ampak tole danes, next level shit.
Process to get to the point that we are today and where we will go from here. That iteration is a core process of how we work here at SpaceX. We like to fly and we like to test early and often, both on the side of hardware and software.
Yeah, that's an awesome point, Kate. Now, we are continuing our...
Ok, spet bomo videli neko razsutje, neki bo raznesel, padl bo vodo, razfukal jih bo, ampak fantje imajo en kup senzorjev in zaradi teh senzorjev so napredovali in delajo to, kar naseni fantje ne počnejo. Testirajo, razfukavajo stvari in prav je, fejlat možda napreduješ, tako da vidimo.
Issue, they're troubleshooting that right now. Now, we do have the option, if need be, if we can't solve this, then we would hold the count and probably treat today as wet test and not be able to launch. However, we are continuing to do propellant loading on both the Super Heavy and the ship stages. Now, most recently, we began loading liquid oxygen and methane fuel into the header tanks on Starship. At the very top, just underneath the nose there are two small spherical tanks. That's where the fuel and liquid oxygen header tanks are. That started at T-minus 27 minutes, and that propellant loading will continue until T-minus 9 minutes. We'll also continue loading the main tanks of the Starship second stage, although they're pretty much full right now. Everything will drain back as we get ready for launch at T-minus 5 minutes. Now, on the first stage, we're continuing to load the massive amount of propellant onto the Super Heavy booster. That's going to continue until T-minus 3 minutes. You can see the frost line on some of the views as both liquid methane and liquid oxygen go into the tank.
Ja. Nadaljujejo, upam, da ne prekinili.
Prepared for the release at liftoff, and the second stage quick disconnect is beginning its configuration for release. The liquid oxygen and methane that are going into the second stage go through that quick disconnect. You can see it in some of the views, the arm that comes out just to the base of the second stage. That'll move out of the way as we lift off. At the same time, the SpaceX team continues to check in with the Coast Guard. We're working one boat that's in the safety perimeter. They are working to get that boat out of the way. We cleared several other boats out overnight. We're down to one, and we expect that'll be clear so that we can proceed with launch out over the Gulf of Mexico. But as a reminder, T-minus 15 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. We are working an issue on the first stage, and we'll bring an update as we get more insight into that issue.
Now, today's test flight is...
Ja. 14 minut do, nekaj se dogaja, bodo povedali kaj, če nam je spet čez goru, ampak to je slika enega ponudnika, to je njihova slika in teh je še milijon okrog. Dajmo poslušati.
Photo there on your screen. Fast forward to today, and the team is building out an entire production line.
Yeah, last year they built 4 Starship Super Heavy boosters, 5 Starships.
Ja, fusik ne, to je bilo noro, ampak nemo videti, kaj druga ekipa pove.
Retracked into the orbital launch mount to give the booster some clearance to get away. Now, these quick disconnects that they're talking about, those are the booster and ship quick disconnects. Now, the ship quick disconnect, you can see right at the bottom of your screen. That is supplying the ship with liquid methane and liquid oxygen right now. But right down there on the orbital launch mount itself, you can see...
Ja, ok, razlaga, ko se bo zgodilo, ampak mene bolj zanima, bo to šlo skozi ali ne bo šlo skozi. Gremo nazaj na SpaceX.
Starship that will fly in whatever the next test is will be different than the one that you see there on your screen now.
Now, the employees who have been at SpaceX a while say that Starbase does remind them of the early Falcon 1 days, except moving a whole lot faster.
The team at Starbase is expanding as fast as the facilities are, and if you've ever wondered what life at Starbase is like, here's a quick peek.
Ja, skratka, okrog te Boca Chique so naredili ta Starbase, tipi kupujejo na polno zemljo. Skratka, cena se je tam kar dvignila. Veliko folka so hoteli izseliti, ker se niso spustili, oziroma niso pustili, da se izselijo. Skratka, pač reklama za Boca Chico, za razvoj, za v končni fazi službe. Ja, to kar špila. Dajmo te druge fante poslušati malo.
We'll have booster main engine cutoff, hopefully, and stage separation, and then at 2 minutes and 57 seconds, we will have Starship ignition for a burn all the way over so they can get to Hawaii. That burn would last until 9 minutes and 20 seconds, and after 90 minutes, that's the plan, Starship would reach the Pacific Ocean.
Very good. We saw a little vent there coming out the side, evening out the pressurization within the tanks on board Booster 7, which you have the liquid oxygen and the liquid...
Imamo nove info.
Beautiful location. It's close to the ocean. There's tons of wildlife. And that's because being close to the equator is actually...
Še vedno reklama za Boca Chico. Pite Boca Chico, kupite, tam bo biznis, tam bo vse. Definitivno bo, a ne? Ampak mene bolj zanima zdaj, kako mi to poletel. Poslušamo prijatelje.
On the vehicle that they kind of look like waffles is the way I describe it. Similar to what's used on Falcon 9 to help steer it, but why are they extended right now and are they expected to fold? You can see them right there underneath Ship 24.
Yes, so those are not going to fold in. So the grid fin...
Okay, da vidimo, mogoče zanimivo.
Started hiring.
Now we have all kinds of openings in production and manufacturing for technicians and leadership and manufacturing engineers and all kinds of site support roles.
Še vedno reklama za Boca Chico, delovna mesta so odprta, headhuntersi, akcija, ampak ja, razvili bodo dejansko vesoljsko mesto.
Unnecessary mass. So that, along with the fact that the grid fins are in the center of the vehicle, means they don't really have an aerodynamic...
Hello, Kate and Shiva again. You can really feel the energy here at South Padre Island as more of the SpaceX team have gathered. We're standing just over 5 miles away from the launch mount, and so from here we've got a very nice view. I would basically say these are some of the best front row seats you could get, and might I add, beachside as well. Now, the Starship team has worked incredibly hard to get ready for this test, and we're all clearly excited for T0. And as we get into the final moments, one issue that could hold the countdown or cancel the test altogether is if a boat enters the safety perimeter. Now, over my shoulder is the Gulf of Mexico, which is normally very open to all of the boaters and fishers. However, today, SpaceX is closely coordinating with the United States Coast Guard to establish a safe zone and ensure public safety. And up to T0, SpaceX is in regular communication with the Coast Guard.
Skratka, 9 minut do izstrelitve, sicer govorijo o vseh možnih kombinacijah Ampak ja, če bo kdorkoli preblizu plaval, se sprehajal, vozil, whatever, prekinejo, če karkoli narobe, prekinejo. Skratka, upam, da ne bo kakšnega idiota, ko bo tam z aviončkom okrog leto kazanč, ne?
We're just inside T-minus 9 minutes and counting. We're listening on one of the background loops right now. Flight director is talking about the issue we've had on first stage, working the pressurization system.
Launch window.
Decision right now is that we are going to stop the launch for today.
It takes
We're going to transition the launch attempt to a wet dress
Basically,
rehearsal.
if they would
So
be
that
able
means
to
we're
go
going to
out.
continue with the
there you
countdown
know.
sequence of events. We'll continue loading propellant, finishing up here shortly on the
Coincidence.
second stage. We'll also continue loading propellant
There
onto
now.
the first stage, wrapping up at T-minus 3 minutes. We're also going to go through pressurization steps, other steps of the countdown. This will be a full validation for the team, but currently the plan right now is we're waiting for final word. Is
Ja,
that
final word je, da ste prekinili. Saj si rekel, da je konca, ne?
finally stop the clock and then recycle the countdown for today. Now we're inside T-minus
Nič
8
ne bo.
minutes and counting. We're continuing to load propellant on both the first and second stage. You can see the Starship second stage with the heat shield tiles there.
Ok, odštevajo.
Carriage arms are
To je ok.
open.
To je ok. Še vedno odštevajo. Gremo.
Around the first stage tank
Gremo.
as we load liquid methane, liquid oxygen into the large super heavy first stage. And that propellant loading is continuing until T-minus 3 minutes. As a reminder, and there's
Ok, počakamo 3 minus. Pazite, kako so rakete označene, le to. Vsaka ima svoj znakec, sredinske se premikajo, te, ki so okrog, so fiksne. Noro. Da vidimo, kaj slišijo, kaj govorijo
For
kolegi.
sure, they just took, like, they got very far in the process. Now we, of course, have to wait and see how much of the propellant can they get, how much, how big is the issue they had, how fast can this be fixed before they probably will confirm a new day where they target all of this. But they got close. It was only minutes away before they called it scrap here. And yeah, we will see how the week plans out from here on.
Je kaj?
I mean,
Stop
for a
je, ne?
first
Kaj?
flight of a pretty much brand new rocket, I'd say this was a good first attempt. Of course, it's
A
not
good
the outcome
first
that we're
attempt.
looking for,
Ja,
we
se bi
were hoping
ajde.
for.
Da slišimo,
but
kaj bo
teams
spet
are
an
getting a
opportunity to run the
phenomenal
end-to-end
amount
of the system. Now in a launch, in the next few minutes, the guidance system would be performing its final alignment. We will be doing that this morning. The automated flight termination system would be armed. We won't need to arm it today as we won't be flying. And we'll do final thrust vector control checkouts, what we call wiggles of the Raptor engines on the first and second stages. Now, normally in a countdown, if we needed to hold, there's a view of the second stage Raptor engines, just above the first stage.
Tukaj se dotikata spodnji pa zgornji del. Ko gre se narazen, se reptorčki prižgejo.
Countdown where we can pause to wait for final checkouts or pressurization to complete. Now, earlier this morning, we thought we might have to hold it 40 seconds. Everything's looking good.
Nič, to je to. Čakamo na drug datum. Sečnega pa zdravega verjetno, ne? Ajde.
Continue all the way down to 10 seconds, and then we'll go into a recycle.
John, you mentioned that we're going to be jumping into a wet dress rehearsal here, and I actually
Now we're
think
coming
that's-
up T-minus 5 minutes. Overall, though, Kate Shiva, it's been a good day. It's a little sad listening to the flight director say that we're going to have to stop at 10 seconds. But I guess that's for everybody. It gives us a real run-through of the launch vehicle.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Of course, we wanted to see fire today and lift off, but that's okay. The point of the countdown is to allow the teams to progress to that T0 time in a coordinated fashion and really to unveil any issues prior to the ignition sequence. So the countdown did its job today. It allowed us to identify that press issue, and like John mentioned, the teams are going to work through it, and we are going to basically call it off at T-minus 10 seconds. But the integrated launch teams and us, we are going to treat this as if it were still a launch day. We're going to do this, what we now call a wet dress rehearsal.
Yeah, and we've mentioned the term a couple of times here. We call it a wet dress rehearsal because we are wetting the propellant tanks. We are loading propellant into the vehicle. We've talked about the frost line a little bit here. That exercises the stage 0 system.
Ok, v vsakem primeru, generalko moraš imeti, to nimaš kaj. Da vidimo, kaj bodo prijatelji povedali.
If we were continuing to, what should we expect, I guess, until T-minus 10 seconds?
Yeah, so there's going to be a few things coming up. Basically, just getting the vehicle situated and ready for flight. So at 16 minutes, which we have passed already, we would begin the Raptor chill on the booster. That's likely underway right now as well. T-minus 40 seconds would be the next major milestone. That's when they begin to vent down all the fluids on board the vehicle. So final vents of the tanks, final vents of the GSE, get everything then sealed up and ready for flight. Coming down to T-minus 8 seconds, which will not happen today.
Okay. Čakamo na minus 10 sekund.
Around the T-minus 10 second mark. So we're really going to exercise everything that we would up until that point in the vehicle states and ground procedures.
Yeah, it's like we said before, any data that we can collect today is super helpful. And that's exactly what we're doing. We are continuing to collect this data and allow the teams to have be better informed for the next attempt. Unfortunately, due to the needing to recycle the propellant, we are looking at a minimum of 48 hours until we are able to attempt this flight test again. So we're not quite sure what that timing will be at the moment, but we're looking at a minimum of 48 hours at this point in time. But Shiva, exactly as you said, things look a little bit different on launch day. And we allowed the countdown to do its job, to basically get to this point, to allow the teams to work through the issues. And we're going to continue, like we said before, we're going to continue all this down all the way to T-minus 10 seconds. And that will really allow the teams to pretend like this is launch day and continue and gather that data.
Yeah, Kate, it's on the one hand, it's a little bittersweet. On the other hand, we watched them go all the way through. First stage propellant load, just now wrapping up. The second stage, even the header tanks up under the nose of the Starship that you can see on the monitors. Actually, that all went very well today. The weather was excellent. Everything was looking good. Sadly, we just have the one issue, but that is letting the team continue to count down. And we're going to continue with it here until we get the clock hold at T-minus 10 seconds.
Yeah, so for those of you that have just joined us, we're now at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds to what would have been the launch of our Starship flight test. But unfortunately, due to a stage 1 issue, we are going to utilize today as a wet dress rehearsal. Instead, we are not going to attempt launch. The teams are basically saying that we're scrubbing our launch attempt for today, and we are expecting a minimum of 48 hours in order to recycle. So it's all good news, though. There's nothing really to be sad about other than we had hoped to be able to lift off today, but that's okay.
Now, one thing to point out for folks, when we do come back, when we clear this and we fly, one of the things you'll hear in the last minute, you won't be hearing us because we'll be listening to the countdown. But at T-minus 30 seconds, that's when the flight director would give the final go for launch. Love to have heard that this morning, but something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
The other thing to look at is at T-minus 6 seconds, we begin lighting the engines. Up on your monitor, you can see there, T-minus 40 seconds. We did hit the 40-second hold point, and they are holding for a moment. In the end, they will release that hold. We'll go the last 30 seconds. But yes, when we do get to day of launch, the last thing to look at is in the last 6 seconds, light the Raptor engines in succession. So unlike Falcon 9, we're going to have to do that a little longer. We're hearing right now the clock is going to hold here at T-minus 40 seconds. The Super Heavy and Starship are looking good. So with that, Kate, it's been a fast-paced morning. We got through it fairly quickly. But at this point, we're going to have to call it a morning.
Yeah, that's right. So for those of you that have recently just joined us, we unfortunately had a hold on the countdown today, and that is going to scrub our launch attempt. But we are expecting a minimum of 48 hours in order to recycle. So be sure to keep an eye on our social channels, and we'll share information as soon as it becomes available. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Good, 48 ur do naslednjega preizkusa, ampak dajmo pogledati, kaj pravijo naši prijatelji.
10 seconds. So we will take this countdown to T-minus 10 seconds. Engine ignition is somewhere between T-minus 8 and 6 seconds, so we will not get to that point. Again, making this a wet dress rehearsal.
Did anybody say the line, Sawyer?
Ne, to je to.
Which one? It's better
Scrubs,
to be...
not ruds.
Yeah.
No, Sawyer's got it.
Scrub.
Sawyer's got
Skrata.
it.
It's better to be on the ground.
Scrubbed, 48 ur čakamo in ne vem, se vrnemo v priliki, a ne. Skratka, do naslednjiča, ne.
Letdown. I know everybody was so excited to see this thing go, but this is still progress for SpaceX. They've never launched this vehicle before. Look at the frost on the side. We've seen the frost on the side, but every time they do this, they learn about it. This isn't like, oh, we're going to spend 20 years before we ever try to launch it. SpaceX loves to get real data, and that's what they did today. Now, is the data going to say that somebody needs to go out there and bang on that valve with a hammer? Hopefully not. But SpaceX is going to turn this around into actionable information. And the next time we see this, maybe something else, but this rocket is going to go at some point.
Oh, we are excited for this rocket.
A vidiš spodaj, koliko je teh prikolic pa vsega. Full folka je prišlo to pogledati. Ne? Lej, iz ladij, iz prikolic, iz sosednjih stavb, kaj ima to neko kamerco, fotiča z velikim objektivom. Mike, to zna zarupotati k svina. Skratka, srečnega pozdravka.
To support everything that's happening at Starbase. But it really is like the reason we chose this hotel is because you can see Starbase. And it has a ton of rooms that are sort of the south facing rooms. So if you want to